Hi everyone, Brian from Bear Bull Traders here. Sunday, July 21st. Hope everyone's had a great weekend so far. Still got a few hours left here. I know it's been hot in a lot of parts of the country. Hope you're staying cool. And yeah, let's take a look at the week that was and take a look ahead. So, had some interesting events happen over the previous week. We had John Williams, New York Fed president, was talking and making reference, I think, to zero interest rate policy. And following that speech, the Fed came out and sort of walked some of those comments back. And I don't think the market really, first the market reacted, they liked that idea. Of course, they're hooked on the high interest rate or the low interest rates and more interest rate cuts to come, kind of like a junkie needing more drugs. But as soon as the Fed came out and walked that back a little bit, it didn't go well, and the market had a bit of a hissy fit. As you can see, kind of sold off, and we were off on the week, made new highs on the week, and then sold off. So you can see, we'll go see that when we go through the various indexes. But yeah, so interesting dynamic this week. So you can see here we sold off pretty hard after lunch. Not really hard, but we sold off on all the markets after lunch. The only market that didn't make a new high, I think, this week was the small caps, and they've just been lagging anyway, and they sold off as well. So let's take a look at what we got for action on the groups quickly. You can see here on the weekly performance, nothing really did very well overall. You can see here. Yeah, nothing did well. Only the consumer goods were actually up on the week. For the month, technology is still pretty good. Consumer goods, services, utilities, healthcare down at the bottom. So, but we'll see here. I mean, see where the week takes us. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Before we get into the indexes, let's take a look at what we got coming up this week. This is our earnings. This is actually our newsletter that comes out, sent out every weekend, and one of the things in there is the anticipated earnings for the week. So I thought I'd bring that up rather than rattle through them. You can see here Visa's on Tuesday. We've got Coke reporting before the market on Tuesday. We've got some big ones coming up here. Yeah, so you got Tesla, Facebook, Boeing. Boeing's already pre-announced that they're going to write down something like $4 billion with all this problems with the Max. PayPal, Xilinx, another chip stock that was hot beginning of the year. And then Thursday we got Amazon, Alphabet, Intel, Starbucks, 3M. Yeah, some biggies coming up on Thursday, and McDonald's Friday. So PayPal Wednesday, of course. Anyway, you have big earnings week this coming week, so that should drive the market a little bit here. So let's just take a look at the indexes. We'll go through here. Start with the 10-year on the Treasury. Sold back off again here. And on the week, let's take a look. We'll start looking at the weekly since we are reviewing the weekly. So interest rates dropped again, and I think part of that was the comments came from the Fed. I think I read there was like a 41% chance, or people are giving it a 41% chance that we're actually going to get a half a point rate cut at the end of July. Of course, the big focus, apart from the earnings next week, will be end of July Fed meeting and how much they're going to cut, if they're going to cut. There's lots of debate about whether they should cut, whether they shouldn't cut. Will it be a quarter point? Will it be a half point? So I think the markets are kind of just going to be on edge this week with all the big earnings coming up, plus the question mark about what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates and interest rate cuts. Yeah, let's take a look here at the week. You can see here we made a new high, and then we're off it on the Dow. RSI is kind of rolling over a little bit here. Let's take a look at the IWM. As I mentioned, the small caps are just not performing well. You can see here they haven't even come close to getting to their high. It looks almost like a head and shoulders here. Kind of looks like maybe this index wants to head lower, and we may head lower next week. You can see here, this is the daily chart. Again, you can see it's pretty close to a reversal day on the IWM. So TZA may be in play. I may watch that. TZA is a way to short the small caps. QQQs again didn't quite make a new. Well, actually, I think they didn't. We did make a new high on the. Let's go back to the weekly. Yeah, weekly new high, sold off. Again, I think we're kind of just looks like a bit of a false breakout here right now. Maybe come back, check this level. If we don't hold here at this level, we may be heading back down. But again, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility with the earnings and the upcoming Fed meeting. Again, SPY was off on the day. Again, SPY made the high in the weekly, but then sold off pretty substantially during the week for the whole week. So another red candle there. Maybe again coming back, checking back to this level, which is quite often what happens. The stocks will, when they break to new highs, they'll break out, come back, check back to this level there where they broke out from, which prior resistance becomes support. So I think people will be watching this 29.50 level pretty closely on the SPY. See if it holds there, if we do get a continued pullback, if it actually holds there or not, in and around that area. Dollar, kind of just chopping on the month here, or on the daily, I should say. Let's take a look at the weekly and just see what it looks like. Yeah, it's not really doing anything. It's just kind of flattened out, sort of staying the way it is. And let's take a look at the VIX. VIX reversed quite a bit here on the daily. You can see here it held this 12.5 level, and we went out at 14.5, pretty close to the high on the week. So we may head higher if we continue to get a pullback here. Just take a quick look on the weekly. See here, we had definitely had a reversal candle here on the weekly. Almost looked like if the markets were going to continue, it was going to head down to, a 10 handle, but we turned around on it pretty hard. Let's take a look at the actives quickly. I don't have a lot of actives right now. I just find this market is really just hard to figure out where it's going. Haven't found any really super great setups for swing trades. Gold I've been watching. Of course, we played NUGT. Now we've got a great run on NUGT. And Lulu, I didn't put this one out there, but it looked toppy, and I sold some calls. And again, I'm not putting out a lot of these options trades just because we're not generally options traders, but I sold the 190 calls, just thinking that it was probably going to top out here. It looked like it broke to a new high and failed. So I sold a few 190 calls, collected $1.60 in premium. They went out on Friday, worthless, so I kept that $1.60 premium on the 100 shares. I had a couple of contracts, so it worked out pretty well. And yeah, so let's just take a nugget quickly. Had an inside day on Friday. Gold continues to look interesting just because, if interest rates continue to go lower, I think this is a bit of a risk off trade. People are throwing some money at gold, just worrying about the stock market and interest rates. But you can see here we had a beautiful breakout. We caught that. I've sold most of my position. I've just got a very small number of shares because I do want to stay involved with this. I'll look to maybe add back again. Maybe if we can pull back to 32, I'll set an alert there, and if we pull back, I might look at entering again. Other than that, I wouldn't add anything right now. Just keep that position the way it is, relatively small. So I'll go through my watch list. Stocks I'm kind of interested in watching to see what happens. 175 rejected on BABA. I think this is just going to chop here. Baidu not looking very good. Again, it looks like it might actually be heading back down to 110. So we had a gap up day and then a sell off day. So Facebook broke through 200, touched 205. I think it may be just pulling back here. Um, it might be a good entry around here, but I just don't, I'm not sure about this. Could sell some 195 puts. That would mean you'd own the shares if if it went below 195. Might be one way to play it. Hopefully it would find some support there. I'll look at that trade maybe next week and see how Facebook trades. But again, I think we're going to be volatile. I may just back off on swing trades. Oh, yeah, Chinese internet's not doing very well. Micron's been on a tear. One of our traders in the room, swing trader, caught this one on this nice run up. This was beautiful, a nice double bottom setup, just higher low here. And I think this was a gap up maybe on some earnings, but yeah, it's just been on a tear here. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the weekly quickly. Good to take a higher level view of things. So it's pretty extended here. The other thing you can do, the thing I like to look at if I'm trying to figure out how extended something is, I like to look at the Bollinger Bands. Still quite away from the third standard deviation, which is really getting extended here. You can see where third standard deviation of Bollinger Band gets usually acts as a area of significant resistance, but we're long ways from there. So we have some room to run on this. Probably AMD too, although I'm not watching AMD. Let's just see here. I'll skip back to. So MU pretty extended. Can't see a trade here. Looks like it's going to break out, but I'm not sure if I'd want to take a trade here on that. Silver, same with same sort of comments as gold. Big run up, and now it's just pulling back here. Be looking for an opportunity to enter on that, back into that trade. SMH has been on a good run. This is the semiconductor ETF. T is actually one I was looking at. Saw it with, kind of saw it break out, missed the breakout, and was looking for a pullback on it. I didn't pull the trigger yet, but I'm going to look at it on Monday. If it can get to this 32.50 level, I think it's going to hold some support there. I think it's a good, personally for me, I think it's a good hold for the long term. It's got pays a decent dividend, and definitely looks interesting. Yeah, I think it's due for. I think it'll pull back a little bit more here, and we might get a good entry or under 32.5. If you're looking for something to sort of buy and hold on to. UGAS, or I should say natural gas prices. So, I'm always watching those. Looks like it's going to put in a bit of a bottom here, so I'm see what it does on Monday morning. Again, this is just another way to play silver. It's a levered ETF, so you got to be a little more careful. It's a higher dollar stock. And oil, it's funny with all the stuff going on in the Persian Gulf, shooting drones down and tankers being taken over and all the rest of that. And oil's really not catching much of a bid, and it's probably because, in the old days, when the U.S. was relying a lot on Mideast oil, this would have a big impact on the price. Now, U.S. has the Permian Basin. They're getting a lot of oil out of there, and now it's not driven so much by these geopolitical risks that are going on. So, anyway, we kind of came back and we filled this gap here. We had a bit of an inside week, maybe going to be reversing. I don't know. I mean, it just depends on what happens in the Persian Gulf, but again, it's really not overly sensitive to that. Here's the some ETFs I'm looking at. The industrials sold off, obviously. Energy is going to go with oil. Again, we'll see what happens next week. Anything exciting in the Persian Gulf, but this doesn't. This kind of looks dead in the water right now. Financials, financials. We had a lot of financials reporting, as everyone knows. Last week we had Citigroup. Again, this is something. Here's a could have sold calls. Could have sold some 72 calls last week. Might have been a good opportunity. I'm not sure if it's, but it definitely looks like 72 is a serious level of resistance. So you sell some calls, collect the premium. Hopefully by the end of you'd sell a weekly call. So by the end of the week, the call would, the price would still be below 72 and the call would expire worthless. And you just collect that premium. Remember, when you collect the premium too, it also gives you a bit of upside, room. So if you sell a call for $1 at 72, really you're not going to be out of the money until the stock price hits 73, because you've collected that dollar in premium. So you just got to be careful and not trade those. I don't, as people know, I don't trade anything through earnings. I just don't understand the logic behind doing that. It just feels like gambling to me. Look at Netflix last week. People have betted, took that bet on the long side. They were down $40. Anyway, moving on. J.P. Morgan again, another report last week. I thought they reported pretty good earnings, but they sold off anyway. So I don't know. Again, you could sell a call up here, 116 call. I might look at doing something like that on Monday. We'll see what the premiums are looking like. Again, those are risky. You can set stops with options, so you just have to be careful. But options can move a lot more than the underlying stock price. So you can lose a fair amount. So they're a little risky if you might end up short a stock you don't want to own. You don't want to be short of. So. Again, Goldman Sachs, not great price action on the week. Looks kind of toppy here. So anyway, that's it for the week and the week ahead. So we're looking at a few things. And this is my book, How to Swing Trade. It's on Amazon if you haven't checked it out yet. It's there for the taking. I hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend, whatever they're up to. Stay cool if you're down in the U.S. in some hot areas, and we'll check everyone out, catch everyone in the Bear Bull trading room in the morning, Monday morning, bright and early. See you all there, people. Bye for now.